And my guest this morning is the amazing Lynn Parker. Good morning, Lynn.
Good morning, Paul.
Thank you for joining us on In Conversation Spiritual Talk. Before I go straight into the question, can you just introduce yourself in terms of your experience and what you've done, please?
Okay. I'm a minister of the Spiritualist National Union. I've been an ordained minister for just over a year now. And before that, I was an officiant of the Spiritualist National Union. And I'm a course organiser and tutor at the Arthur Finley College in Essex in the UK. And I've been developing and working with my mediumship for getting on for 30 years now, starting off at my local spiritualist church in the northwest of England, and then going on to teach and serve churches outside of that area, and then eventually to work at the Arthur Finley College.
Superb. Now, I do know of you. I know your reputation. You are well thought of within. I don't like to use the term industry, but that's pretty much what it is. You are a well-respected lady, and I'm so flattered that you said yes to agree to be interviewed.
Oh, no
But
problem.
one of the things that we do like to ask is because a lot of people that will watch this from wherever they are in the world, they might have had their own experiences or they're interested in developing themselves. So we'd not like to know a little bit from my guests how it all started for them.
Okay. Yeah, as a child, I used to think it was normal to see people going through the walls at night. I didn't sleep as a child, and my parents weren't spiritualists. They had no knowledge of mediumship. But I thought it was just everybody saw people going through the walls at night. And so these experiences continued into adulthood. And it was probably in late 30s when I had a sitting with a medium called Janet Parker, no relation, and she told me that I got a natural ability with mediumship. She didn't tell me what to do with it or what to do about it. But it sowed a seed in my mind. And so and at that time it was a big step to go to my local spiritualist church. Bearing in mind my godmother, she used to attend spiritualist churches and she was a spiritualist herself. And she encouraged me with this. And I started going to my local spiritualist church, as I said. And one thing led to another. I was invited on the first, what we call an open circle, um, to go to sit in a circle in someone's home. And it wasn't really a training circle as such. It ended up really being more of a social event. We sort of sat in the energy and in the power for a while, but then it was more of a social setting. But it was something I really enjoyed, and I learned a lot from that environment. So really, I didn't go to a lot of courses or do a lot of training at all in my journey. I kind of did everything backwards. I always tell students this. I did everything backwards because in the environment that I started in the spiritualist church, the idea of working psychically, it was almost taboo. It's like, oh no, you don't work psychically, you only work with the spirit world. So I had no idea what working psychically was. And so I went to an odd workshop or two just run locally. And so I did most of my learning, if you like, about mediumship through watching other mediums work, sometimes watching how not to do it, because we can always learn from every single experience. And so it took quite a few years. I was actually working with my mediumship, serving churches. The first service that I ever took was very hesitant because I said, there's no way I'm ready for this. There's no way. I've had no training, had nobody taking me out with them to support me, which is why I think it's so important to have that support, on
Yeah.
the journey. And it was my friend that said, oh, I've made a booking for you at my church. It's on such and such a date. You're doing the service. So that's really been the story of it all. It's just happened, if you like. I've never ever gone looking for any of it. It's
Yeah.
always just been, um, it's just happened basically. And so it was the same with the teaching. There was a notice up on the church notice board, which was about a new awareness class starting for those starting out with mediumship. And I said to the president at the time, I said, who's going to be teaching that? And he said, you are. And so, again, that was the start of the teaching, and one thing leading to another. So, yeah, it's been a long road, but very interesting how things have happened. And it was quite a few years down the line that I heard about the Arthur Finley College
Yeah.
and attended as a student quite a few times, and then ended up again starting that journey of becoming a tutor at the college too.
While we're here, it's worth actually plugging the college because we don't actually talk that much about it. I mean, it is, in my personal opinion, it's probably the best college in the world by far in terms of what it offers
Mm.
to people that want to work in this way. I mean, can you talk a little bit about the college and your work at the college, please?
Yeah, yeah. It is well, the building itself, if anyone wants to go on to Google and look it up, the building itself is amazing. It
Yeah,
looks like a stately home.
yeah,
So it has paintings, it has antiques, artifacts. It also contains houses and museum too.
yeah,
It's a residential college, so students will stay for some weekend courses, also 7-day courses. So it offers different kinds of courses ranging from beginners mediumship up into working mediums, platform mediumship, also courses like animal communication, trance, a whole range of courses. And all of the tutors there are highly experienced. They've been teaching for many, many years. And it's the whole experience. It's not just hopefully the quality of teaching, and I know I'm biased because I work there.
yeah,
I've been working there since 2010, but it's also the whole experience of being with like-minded people. And
yeah,
I think people find that really beneficial because many people on their journey think, oh, I'm a bit weird, I'm odd, I'm making this up, I just feel different from everybody else. And so going to the college and being for a whole week with like-minded people
yeah.
really gives people a boost and reassurance that they're on the right pathway. So it is about the building, it's about the gardens, it's about the other students, and of course, importantly, it's about spending time with spirit too.
And that's a really good point you make, actually, from my own personal experience. You know, you do feel different. You do feel within your own community, you know, you can't always talk to your friends about what you do. You know, you have to kind of,
Mm.
but when you're at the college, you feel like you're among friends. And for me, it's the actual people that make it as well.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And there are people from all over the world that go to the college. Like you said, the college has a good reputation, and it is unique in the fact with the building, with the environment, with the courses.
Yeah,
And yes, throughout the world there are other places that run courses and teach mediumship, but there is nowhere like the Arthur Finley College
yeah.
for that. But it is, we get students from Japan, Australia, New Zealand, United States, South America, from all over the world, a lot from Europe, and of course the UK too.
Yeah, yeah, and also alongside, it's not just about mediumship as well. You know, the National Spiritualist Union, or if I said that right, was it the Spiritualist National Union?
Yeah, that's it.
It is also something when I'd like to talk about because you're obviously a minister. What is it about being a minister for you that you feel that you needed to not achieve or to be? What is
Yeah,
it that drives you into that?
yeah. And I think that's different for everybody, of course. And I never ever saw myself as becoming a minister. That wasn't really something that I ever considered.
Yeah,
Obviously, teaching is my background originally. Becoming a tutor at the college was something, as I said, that just happened and that I love and is my passion. And I was recommended by a minister to start the efficiency training, which is the first step within the Spiritualist National Union ministry. And again, at that point, for the whole of the training period, which I think ended up being, because it's not full time, it's kind of just part time. For the whole of that time, I was thinking, should I be doing this? Is this right for me?
yeah,
And so I questioned all along whether this was my, if you like, inverted commas, calling. But it was interesting because I grew into it, if you like. It started to feel more and more right for me. And so then when I was invited to go into minister training, again, I thought, no, I don't know. I'm not sure I want to do this. But again, it just felt right. So for me, it's not just about the mediumship, not just about teaching students how to deliver a communication from the spirit world, not just about, supporting with different training experiences, which is important, of course,
Yeah.
but it's more about the idea of the religion of spiritualism, of how it can help empower us to live our lives. So it's
Yeah.
not about preaching the religion as such for me. It's about my ministry to me is about, if you like, in very simple terms, spreading the word of of the fact that that belief, that understanding of life after life is something that can give us hope, that
Yeah.
can help us with our own healing, that can help empower us to make our own life choices, understand more of our purpose here.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so for me, that's very important.
Because that runs hand in hand, isn't that? Self-healing and self-development run hand in hand, and you find that a lot of some people will develop their mediumship or and they won't actually develop themselves. But I think it's really important that you kind of keep that alongside, as that is as important as developing any kind of mediumship ability.
Yeah, absolutely. People, come from all kinds of different backgrounds, belief systems that come to the college, the students that we teach online or actually at the college. And so we respect everyone's beliefs because they're personal to them. But it is always an evolving process.
Yeah.
And although we're a spiritualist college, we don't preach or teach the religion as
Yes.
such. It's more woven into the whole direction we come from as tutors. And of course, we do have the services twice a week with the religious services, which maybe will give students a taster or an idea of what the religion aspect is like. But it is that we weave it into the direction we all come from, that positive direction, that positive attitude. But yes, self-awareness, self-development mediumship should come, in my opinion, and start to develop from beginning to be aware of self. It's
Yeah.
a natural unfoldment. And I talk to students about creating harmony. As mediums, we try to create harmony between ourselves and the spirit world and the person that we're speaking to or the
Yeah.
people that we're speaking to. And if we haven't created or tried to create harmony within ourselves, how then can we best try and create that harmony when we're working to serve spirit, the
Yeah.
spirit world, or people here?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And that's something from my experience of going to the college, the two don't cross over. It's there, it's subtle, and it gives the students the opportunity to experience that. So I'll give the college a bit of a plug. I would definitely recommend anybody that's budding medium to go along to the college. Not only that, because it's also a good place to kind of share experiences with people as well.
Yeah, yeah.
The actual, it's almost like a holiday for mediums, really. Although I can say you are worked very hard.
You are
So
12-hour days. Yeah.
yeah,
We start at 9:30 in the morning and usually finish at 9 o'clock at night.
and if you're
Yes.
doing a week's course, they call Wednesday the Weepy Wednesday, apparently.
Yes, it does have that reputation. I tend not to use that phrase because it's a bit in some ways like auto-suggestion.
It is
But some
absolutely.
people refer to it as Tearful Tuesday, Weepy Wednesday. Um, and that's a natural part really of people. It's like when you're on holiday, isn't it? It takes you a few days to wind down.
Yeah,
And so, being at the college with students, they're in an environment that they're not used to quite often.
yeah,
They're long days, maybe late nights, because they get the chance to go to the bar afterwards, of
yeah,
course. And they're working quite in a way that they wouldn't normally work. So, it's all impinging on their sensitivity, and they are working with their sensitivity all week. So, keeping balance within that is very important.
So, Lynn, sorry, now I've got you here, and I know I don't want to be controversial or anything like that. I'm not here to. I personally am worried about the spiritualist churches themselves and the numbers and what's happening within the churches. My question to you is, how can we reconnect the younger generation with the religion, with the spiritualist
Mm.
movement? because that's something
Yeah. So,
I've
and
thought about, and I've delivered at churches, and you see numbers dwindling. It's really sad.
and I know I'm speaking obviously personal opinions here, but it is. And we question sometimes why some churches have really big numbers. Some of the churches
Yeah,
I serve maybe have 40 or 60 people.
yeah,
I've thought about this, and it seems to be that, again, for those viewers that are maybe not familiar with this, we have what we call the divine service, which often takes place on a Sunday. It doesn't have to, but it can take place on a Sunday. And if you like, that's more about the prayers, about the we call it the philosophy, the inspiration side of it. So more of the religion side of it. And then there are services which take place sometimes in the week, which are still services, of course, and still a religious service, but they're more focused on the demonstration of mediumship.
yeah,
And it seems to be, and I'm generalizing here, and again, it's just personal opinion, but those services seem to attract different people, and often they attract more people. And, so it's something that association, I think, that people have with the idea of religion and being, again, I might be wrong with this, but being either preached at or, sort of
yeah.
people don't
Disconnection,
seem
isn't
to want the
there?
commitment of
Yeah,
it.
there's a real disconnection from it, but so and you mentioned philosophy as part of that divine service.
Mm.
Why is that philosophy so important? For me, it's quite important, but for
Yeah.
you, why do you think that philosophy is so important within that service?
Yeah. If we think about it in a slightly different way, people often will go to church for the messages, for
Yeah,
the demonstration of mediumship, to be given hopefully a good evidential communication from a loved one in the spirit world. But if we flip that around, and I mentioned before about the idea of the belief of life after life, the empowerment that it can bring us, the philosophy, the inspired speaking, where the medium is inspired by the spirit world or from their own soul, that the demonstration of mediumship is the practical application of the philosophy. So it is the philosophy that underpins everything, but
yeah,
people have kind of got it the other way around. They think that sometimes people will go to the church for the messages, understandably, because they're
yeah,
grieving, because they
yeah.
have questions, understandably. But it's trying to keep them going after they've maybe received that communication or listened to somebody else's communication that's given them that reassurance that, yeah, my loved ones are okay.
Yeah.
And it's kind of getting to realize that that philosophy is underpins the direction we come from with the communication side of it. So it's very important.
Yeah, absolutely. And unfortunately, the focus does seem to be on mediumship completely rather than everything else within that service. And also the power of prayer when we open the service with prayer. Why is prayer so important within a service? For you again, for your personal opinion.
Again, on a personal level, it's about setting that intention, that commitment, creating, as I mentioned the word harmony before, creating the right tone, bringing together people in prayer,
Yeah,
reminding them that this is a religion, this is about our connection to God,
yeah,
however people want to perceive that to be, whether it's a universal power, a
yeah.
great spirit, however they see that to be, but it's setting that intention as part of our religion.
And I guess part of that process within that service that then becomes the mediumship is also for me. I feel, and again, my personal opinion, I feel a part of the creator within the messages. I don't know if you feel the same way, Lynn, but and a lot of mediums are talking about this at the moment. That the messages from Spirit of Change to almost on a healing vibration from the messages as well. Yes, they're getting people are getting the reassurance that life continues, a loved one is okay, but there's more to it than that. It seems to be that Spirit are bringing more healing through the messages as well. So, have you found that?
And my goodness, isn't healing needed as
Yeah,
well at the moment? So, this is an intelligence that we work with in the spirit world. They know what's needed, but it's also important that people start to open up their minds to the message, if you like. And the message is, within all of this, the message is about healing. And
Yeah.
it's always been the case. Now, it's good that people are starting to recognize that more, but the message has always been healing. So no matter how you look at mediumship, it is about healing, whether it's the evidential communication, us as mediums bringing forward the presence, the essence, the love from the spirit world, and how that can then help to heal those here, or it's healing mediumship, which we can, work with, or it's the healing through the words of inspiration, the philosophy, which again can be about healing for people. And so it's good that people are starting to look beyond the material, if you like, and look outside of what their regular life can give them. And yes, the message is about healing, and the message is within that, the communication is about healing.
So on your own journey, though, Lynn, there's a quote in my head. I know I've read somewhere you've said something about mediumship and developing mediumship, becoming a medium is hard work, and you must commit yourself, and make that commitment to spirit. But for a lot of people out there that are looking, thinking, "What could I develop? Is it going to be that hard?" There is also a joy, isn't it? This immense joy of working with spirit and bringing these messages of love for your own self development and for others. But we can sometimes get caught up in that. Oh, it is a really difficult. I don't want to call it a skill. Um, what we do is unique, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think when people say, "Oh, you like yourself, you've been doing this for a long time, 25 years, 30 years," that's a long time of development, of time and effort. But for those budding mediums out there, what would you say to them that are just starting their journey?
Yeah.
Not, because I don't want to put them off by going, "Gosh, it's going to take me 30 years before I can call myself." you-
Yeah. Funnily enough, Paul, somebody yesterday said to me, he was joking at the time, but he said, "Why can't we just take a pill and then suddenly we turn into mediums?" And I said, "Well, wouldn't that be amazing?"
yeah,
But we would miss out on so much as part of that journey.
yeah,
Because yes, it is the being in the presence and the joy and the love of the spirit world, and being able to bring those healing words, that communication, that reassurance, that hope, if you like,
yeah,
for people. And that is a privilege. And so I would say to those just starting out on their journey that the time has to be right for them. It will be that it is the right time in your life. So it may be on the journey you have a taster of it and then have to focus on other things. That's okay. The spirit world are very patient. It's us as human beings that aren't so patient.
yeah,
And so we want it now because we live in a world where everything is quick fix. We click a button, we've got it. We click
yeah,
a button, we order on Amazon or any other, delivery company, and we have it now. And that seems to be the direction that generally people come from. And if we think back to, the 19th century, people, they didn't have all of the distractions that we've got today. Times were different. And yes, things have to change. We can't staying doing the same things that we've always done and doing it how we've always done it. Things have to change. But with mediumship, there is no shortcut, unfortunately,
yeah,
because it's not just about, okay, this is the exercise, these are the mechanics, this is how it works, go off and do it. Yes, you have to put the work in.
yeah,
And yes, you have to be committed, but it's also about your personal journey too.
yeah,
Your own soul's growth, your own soul's development. So this isn't about passing the words on. It's about your progress as a human being too. So if we had this quick fix of, instant mediumship, if you like, we would miss out on so much.
yeah,
And it is a joy, it is a passion, but it is in a way a calling, if you like,
yeah,
because as I said, it has to be the right time in your life. And people think when they're starting out on this journey that if they're going to open up, this doorway to mediumship, that it's going to take over their life. It will only take over their lives if they let it.
yeah,
You see, mediums, we're funny creatures, really. We have this wonderful way of wanting to try, and quite rightly so, try and heal everybody, make it right for everybody.
Yeah.
And in our heads, quite often will be the word, no, I'm sorry, I can't. But out of our mouths comes yes, of course,
Yeah.
because that's a part of us as human beings. So when people start on this journey, they have this thought, it's going to take over my life. I'm not going to, have my normal life. It is about balance. It's about at your own pace, of course, because you have choice. People have choice. And it is trying to keep some balance within that. And so sometimes mediumship will seem like it's racing ahead at sort of, 100 miles an hour. Other times it will be that they feel they're getting nowhere with
Yeah.
it. And that's how it's meant to be, because that's about the journey, the inner journey as well, of learning, of reflection, of awareness of self too, which is
Yeah.
so important. So if we had it yesterday and it was all, we could become a full-time working medium in a week, which we can't.
Yeah.
It takes time and commitment. We would miss out on so much.
That's
Really, we
true.
would.
Absolutely agree. So, as we have you here, Lynn, and with all the wealth of experience you have on your journey, can we fire some technical questions about mediumship to you?
And I'll do my best to answer. And of course, it will be my view and my perception of it, of
Absolutely.
course.
Well, from your experience, and having someone here with so much experience, is well, one, it's a joy to have you here, and two, to share that experience, because that wealth of experience is hard to come by. People can learn from. So I'm just going to fire these questions at you.
Okay, we
First
can go
things
for
first, can you define a difference between psychic and mediumship? So there's a
it.
lot of
Okay.
confusion out there.
There is an awful lot of confusion out there. And I've just literally yesterday finished an online course for the college. And I must have run it now about 12 times in English, 9 or 10 in French and German. And it's called Is It Me or Is It Spirit? Because it is a common question that's asked, and a lot of confusion. And particularly, it seems to be in some other countries too. I know in French speaking countries, the idea of working psychically is called voyance, like seeing.
Ah,
In German speaking countries, often it's called aura reading. Um, they don't actually have a translation for the word psychic
right.
in other countries. So pretty early on courses and training, we introduce that word psychic. So it's important to understand the difference between working psychically. Sometimes I use the word intuitively, between that and working with mediumship, with the spirit world. So, in essence, in very simple terms, if we're working psychically, we are working with the aura, the energy field of someone who is in the physical body. So, that person can be in the same physical room as you, or they can be on the other side of the world. And it works through intention.
Yeah.
Energy follows focus. So the thoughts you send out, that intention, means that your aura, your energy fields can become aware of the energy of someone else in the physical body. So that's working psychically.
Yeah.
And so when we're working with the spirit world, we are working with what we call discarnate spirit. So those who have no longer got a physical body, but who are still energy, because we're all energy. Energy can never be destroyed, it just takes on a different form. So our physical body slows the rate of the vibration of our energy down.
Yeah.
When we no longer have need of that physical body, we are still energy. But because we haven't the physical body to slow it down, our vibration speeds up. So, as mediums, when we're working with mediumship, we're working with discarnate spirit, those who no longer have a physical body, but who live on in a world we call the spirit world.
Yeah.
And again, through intention, we can, as mediums, change the vibration of our energy to become aware of the energy of those in the spirit world.
Yeah. That was beautifully and well said. Thank you for that. Excuse me, losing my voice, but well said. Thank you, because I don't believe some people get confused with the idea of psychic. But I've got a load. I've just been looking at all the questions I've got from some of the viewers that wanted to ask you questions. There's one in particular that sticks out for me, and I've heard this a lot. When a medium is reading for someone and they turn around and say to their client, "I'm sorry, I can't read for you. You can't be read for." Have you heard that expression?
Um, very, very, very occasionally over the years, not many, many times, thank goodness. um, I have had to say to someone, unfortunately, I'm not the person to do this reading for you today. So it is a difficult situation, and it can be for a whole variety of reasons, that just at that moment in time it's not possible. Now, I personally believe it's better to be honest in a kind way and say, okay, this just isn't working for whatever reason that is. And it isn't that it's anything about the person, we have to be clear with that, but I'm not the right person for you. So hopefully they will go off then, or you could recommend somebody else that can read for them. But thank goodness it doesn't happen very, very often.
Just to kind of twist that around a little bit, I've come across, I spoke to a lady yesterday who was told by several mediums, I'm not going to name the country, in different countries, that said to her she can't be read. How,
Okay.
how do you feel about
Again, I
that?
can't really comment on that so much because it's not um, obviously I wasn't there, so I don't know
Yeah, yeah,
how that would be. But
yeah.
it's an interesting, and it's yes, you can only imagine the kind of effect that it would have on that person as well,
Personally,
being
yeah,
told
I
that
mean,
time and time again. Yeah.
heartfelt, yeah, heartfelt.
Mm.
So, she's booked a reading with me. So, and she's been told by several mediums that she can't be read for.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
I find
Yeah.
that interesting.
It is interesting, and part of the teaching that I do with the students that are more experienced is we look at not only the role of the medium when they're giving sittings, but the role of the recipient, the sitter, the client, when we're doing sittings as well. Because that first question that we ask, have you had a reading before, have you had a sitting before, can tell us so much about the client and the direction we need to take. So, for example, theoretically, with the person you just mentioned, it would be about trying to explain how all of this works. That
Yeah,
we can only do our best for
yeah,
you, and trying to get them to have as an open mind as possible, and work in the moment, not dwelling on what's happened in the past, but just doing the best for them, and also maybe looking or feeling to see what their expectations of a session are, because people come to us for many different reasons. And again, I'm not talking about what you referred to, but
yeah,
sometimes sitters come to us with certain questions in mind, and that's the only way that they can think
yeah,
naturally, of course. They're very focused, it's very important in their life. We can't guarantee we can answer that.
yeah,
We can't guarantee who's going to come forwards from the spirit world, even though we know naturally people would like to hear from certain people. So it would be a case of maybe finding out what that person is expecting from this, what direction they're coming from. Not them giving us information, because we don't want that, but just looking at and us explaining clearly how this works.
yeah.
And again, it's about, as I said before, creating harmony, trying to create harmony between us and the sitter before we even start.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I've got loads of great questions. If I'm just going to keep firing these, um, someone has asked, "Do you ever see ghosts during a reading?" Now,
Oh, okay. That word ghost, isn't it? Labels are interesting things. As human beings, we're very good at labeling things. And again, it's perception, isn't it? All of this is about perception, people's views, how they're maybe influenced by their own experiences, their own belief systems. And if you're asking in a sitting or a reading, do I see people from the spirit world or feel people from the spirit world? The answer is yes, but I would not call them ghosts. To
yeah,
me, that's something separate, and that's something completely different.
absolutely. Now, I don't know if we mentioned this earlier. You're also an animal communicator, which I'm really fascinated at. But someone has asked, how do you do that? How do you connect with animals to communicate?
Yeah. Again, the animal communication isn't something that I went out of my way to find out about. It was something that, again, happened as with all of this. We've always had dogs, we've always had pets, for many, many years. And we had a rescue, most of them have been rescue animals, and we had a rescue dog, and I started going to a training class with her because she got certain issues. And I got friendly with the instructor, very experienced instructor. and I started helping out at the dog training club. And she was interested. She found out eventually what I did as my regular kind in my life as a medium, and she was asking me advice about her dogs, and so that kind of got me interested. So that in some ways, again, I can only speak from how I approach it. In some ways, it's similar to when we're working with our sensitivity. So it's about becoming aware of the animal's energy, the animal's
Yeah.
aura through thought. That two-way communication can take place. We
Yeah.
can give information about the pet. They can share it with us through thought, through images, through feelings. And so the principles, those of you that understand a little bit about mediumship, are similar to working psychically, or if we're working with pets in the spirit world, which again, we've got that potential. The principles are the same. It's soul to soul connection, because pets, animals have souls, and it is that soul to soul connection, that choosing for them to, sorry, they choose to come and communicate with us. So we have that potential to have that exchange.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's beautiful, because that's quite special, isn't it, to communicate with. And so many people love their pets. We are a nation in the UK of pet lovers, and to hear from their dog that's just passed. I had a lady ask me for a reading just to connect with her dog.
Yeah.
So it is very interesting. So just moving on quickly, because we have got a lot of questions to get through. One lady has asked, how do I know if I'm receiving messages from my loved ones? Signs, that kind of thing. How would I know it's
Okay.
not my
Okay.
imagination?
And naturally, of course, when people are grieving, they want that sign, that indication that their loved ones are, okay, that they're around them still, and that's perfectly natural. But of course, we know with training people with mediumship that the harder we try, the less it will happen. And
Yeah.
understandably so, people can, get quite frustrated, quite upset when they don't get those signs or that indication, and because they're trying so hard. So often if they're going to get a sign or an indication that their loved ones are around, it will be when they're not expecting it, when they're not trying. Those spontaneous moments that student mediums sometimes have when they're not trying, when you slightly change your awareness, that bit like that daydreaming
Yeah.
kind of state, going into that slightly just temporarily altered state. So often they will have that experience. Maybe it might be a familiar smell. Over the years, it interests me that people who are not developing their mediumship, uh, that they sometimes, not everybody, because everybody's different, sometimes will have those experiences where they'll smell a familiar smell. And it's just that, and they know that it's their loved one, whether it's tobacco
Yeah.
smoke, whether it's perfume, or they'll have that moment out of the corner of their eye, or they'll just get that moment where they know or they feel. And it touches the soul,
Yeah.
because mediumship is about touching the soul. So there will be those spontaneous moments that people will have, of that knowing, and it will be just when the time is right for them to.
Somebody else has asked a really good question. It's something that I get asked a lot. But from your opinion, Lynn, a lot of people ask, how long do I wait before I try to connect with my loved one through a medium or a message? How long can I expect to wait?
Again, it's personal choice. It's really personal choice. People have to grieve. Unfortunately, grieving is part of that process of letting go, that process of healing. As mediums, we can't take away that grieving process for them. All we can try our best to do is give them some reassurance to try and help them with that grieving process, help them with their healing. And so it's whether it's appropriate or not for that individual at that time. From the spirit world side of things, yes, they're sensitive to that, of
Yeah.
course.
Yeah.
But we know, and you probably know yourself, Paul, as well, that people's loved ones can come through even before their funeral.
Yeah.
The time is not an issue,
Yeah.
appropriateness. and it being the right moment is important.
Yeah.
So as mediums, we have to take responsibility and be mindful of that. And sometimes, we have to decide, well, no, the time isn't right for that person to have a communication from a loved one. For some people, yes, it is more appropriate, but to me, there's no set time. It's whether it's appropriate or not.
Can I ask you, do you think that grief can actually be a bit of a block? So, in a reading, I did a reading once many years ago for a gentleman who wanted one specific communicator, and I brought his dad through, his sister through, everybody that apart from the person he wanted.
Mhm.
And he was so uptight. He was a child, and he was so upset and really wanted this communication. Is there any part of that his grief could have
Mm.
blocked that?
I think if we take out that word grief, because this can happen whether someone, again, it's how long people grieve for. That's
Yeah,
unique and individual to them. But even, we could be talking sort of 10 years down the line here, and yes, people can
yeah,
still be grieving in that time. But if someone is so focused on hearing from one person in particular, that is what maybe can limit it, because that sitter is naturally only thinking in a certain direction. So I don't think, yes, grief and grieving, it's maybe not appropriate at that time for that person to, receive a communication. Maybe it is that you suggest spiritualist healing to them, or grief
yeah,
counselling, or,
yeah,
a different avenue. But it's more the fact, if someone is so focused in a certain direction, because there's a need on both sides of life. We have to recognize that as mediums, that people hear often, they want to hear from that one person in particular. But of course, what about all of the others in the spirit world?
yeah,
If as mediums we're trying so hard to get that one person, quite often it won't work because we're
yeah,
trying too hard. But what
yeah,
about all the other loved ones in the spirit
yeah,
world? So we have to recognize that need and be sensitive to that as well. So it isn't necessarily the grieving process. And as I said before, maybe then it's not the right time for a
yeah,
sitting, but it's sometimes because they're very focused on just hearing that from that one person.
yeah. That makes a lot of sense. So, for you, Lynn, do you have when you connect with the spirit world, and we hear a lot of people on YouTube talking about how they connect. For you, what is that process for you when you connect to the spirit world?
You mean the process for me personally, or the way I
Yeah.
teach it?
Well, no,
Yes, yeah,
that's potentially two questions there. How
yeah,
would
it
you?
is
Yeah,
really, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Because obviously I've been doing this a long time now. And so for me, and I explain this to students, the process becomes quicker over time.
yeah,
You have to put the work in at the beginning to understand the process and how it works, but then it should become a natural part of your mediumship. It'd be a natural flow of sharing that information, that love from spirit. So for me, I tend to, and in very, very simple terms, I take a breath and I send out my thoughts to the spirit world. And because I'm mostly claircognizant and clairaudient, I
So
kind of out my
sorry.
mouth and out it comes.
I'm
Yeah.
going to interrupt you. That so just for those that are sitting there going cognizant, that's a knowing, isn't it?
Yes. Yes. So,
Knowing.
um, yes. So clairaudience is the hearing.
Yeah,
Most people understand the clairvoyance is the seeing. I
yeah.
always used to be clairvoyant. I always used to see, and then it changes over time, of course, and it's meant to change over time. And the clairsentience is the feeling. The claircognizance is the knowing.
So the clair,
So
am I right in saying the clair? I'm sorry to interrupt you, Lynn, but
no,
the
no, it's fine.
claircognizance, is that not true that it's the highest form of mediumship? That
Yeah, I'm not sure if I call it the highest form of mediumship, but or if I
because it's
explain
just
that,
you just
yeah,
know it's
yeah,
almost
you just know, yeah, and
yeah,
that can be quite unsettling. That question of, is it my imagination? Is it the spirit world that people ask on the journey? When your mediumship changes, it can take you back to that stage of, is there somebody there? No, I've set my intention, I've built my
yeah,
power, I've invited somebody to come in, which is the usual part of the process, part of the question you asked earlier. um, and understanding about how to hold the vibration of your energy at will, inviting someone to come in, harmony between you and them, blending with them, and then moving it forwards.
yeah,
And so with the claircognizance, because it's staying in your mind less amount of time, it's a clearer flow, hopefully, fingers crossed, it's a clearer flow of information. Because if we're seeing an image, which a lot of people starting out will see images from the person in the spirit world or things they want to show them, and we've got to find the words to describe it. We've got to say, okay, I'm seeing this, it looks like this, finding the words. If we're feeling a memory or a pain that someone might have had as a memory, we've got to find the words. It's staying up here, so we have to interpret it. With the claircognizance, it's more of the, okay, let me just go with it, trust and go with it. And to me, when that started to come in for me, it took my mediumship, it moved up a gear. Because now, I don't know if you've seen me demonstrate or not, but sometimes there can be the most random piece of information, and even a little bit in the back of my mind thinking, I hope they understand that. But it kind of, I don't analyze, I just say it. And so it is for me, it takes it into a different direction. But the interesting thing I was saying to students yesterday was that if I'm teaching, then I turn back on the clairvoyance, because as a teacher, you have to be able to know what's happening with your students when they're working.
I was going to say,
so
that's almost like a bridging technique, is that you're tuning into what's going on. So as a teacher, that's quite unique. That's not something everyone can do.
Again, this is just my personal opinion, but every tutor should be able to link into what's happening with their students. If they can't do that, in my opinion, they shouldn't be teaching. Because you need to know what's happening. You need to be able to support your students so they can get the best out of the experience, and help them develop a communication when they're working. And you have to know what's happening to be able to do that.
Absolutely, 100% agree with that. The other thing I was going to ask on that, do you think mediums are naturally born or have natural disposition to it, or anyone can learn this and pick it up and run with it?
Yeah, I think it's a both, really. Sometimes we meet people and you just know that they've always had that sensitivity, always had that ability. So for some people, yes, it's a natural part of them. Others come into it through different avenues, different directions, whether it's through healing practices, yoga, life events, even people who've had near-death experiences. We find start to open up on their minds to other things. And so people who maybe have not had that ability since they were born, yes, we can try and help them create that right environment to explore their sensitivity. But either way, it takes time. It really does. So I think it's both, really.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, for you, Lynn Parker, what is next for you on your journey?
I have no idea, Paul. I have no idea whatsoever. As you heard me say before, everything's always just happened. It really has always just happened. Again, I never saw this coming as part of my ministry either. That I'm now a police chaplain. And that was something that just happened. So that's quite a recent thing, actually. So it's not with the prisoners, it's not with those who have been arrested, it's for the actual officers within the police. So that's been a more recent thing. So I've no idea what's next. More teaching. I'm fortunate for the college, I do a lot of teaching online for them, sittings for them as well. And back to the college now that it's reopened and moving forwards again with the courses. So I honestly don't know. I don't know, Paul.
Well, we should certainly look out for you in the future. Minister Lynn Parker, thank you so much for joining us on Spiritual Talk. It's been an absolute pleasure.
My pleasure. Thank you, Paul. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you so much. Take care.
You're welcome. Thank you.